good morning. What we have in mind is breakfast in bed for 400,000. Now, it's not going to be...
This is Wavy Gravy, hippie icon, flower geezer, and you are listening to Java John's Acoustic record on WFIT in Melbourne, Florida.
We're all feeding each other. We must be in heaven, man. There is always a little bit of heaven in a disaster area.
Here this evening we are chatting with Woodstock icon, Mr. Wavy Gravy. Hello, Wavy. How are you?
You have gravy in your ear, perhaps a Q-tip.
Yes, please. Wavy, how are you today?
Semi-spectacular.
Right on. I met a gentleman the other day. I asked him how he was. He says, it gets better every day, whether I like it or not.
Ah!
I said, I'm going to keep that one.
That sounds like a plan.
All right. We are coming upon the momentous occasion of the 40th anniversary of a small event called Woodstock.
I remember Woodstock.
You remember back then?
Actually, I survived 3 Woodstocks. The first one made me famous, and the second 2 got me paid.
Well, good. Now that you brought that up, tell me a little bit about your experiences at number 2 and number 3.
Well, let's see. They all kind of blur together there. I remember I run this children's camp called Win a Rainbow.
Yes.
For the last 35 years, kids 7 to 14, circus and performing arts. And Trey Cool, the drummer for Green Day, was a camper here, and he was performing, so I was lurking behind an amplifier having a conversation with him when Billy Joe Armstrong says, I bet you idiots can't hit us with any mud. And it had just rained, and everybody grabbed a handful and
I remember
the stage. And you could plant rutabagas on that stage, and after a while you couldn't tell who the musicians were. In fact, a security guy was punching out Mike Dent, the bass player,
Oh, God.
he thought he came out of the mosh pit.
Oh. He looked like he came out of the mosh pit. Oh, my gosh.
He definitely did. I was briefly knocked unconscious until those little Tweety birds.
Oh, man.
And then I pulled the security guy off Mike Dent, and I said, don't worry, I know a dentist who can give you some green teeth.
It's amazing that you said that, because last night here in Orlando, Florida, Billy Joe Armstrong jumped off the stage, ran through the audience, came up the first section where we were sitting, and high-fived my son.
Oh, my goodness.
My 11-year-old son. He was just tickled. He said, Dad, did you get it? I said, did I get what? I was trying to focus, and I guess I missed the high five. I got a couple pictures of Billy, but I missed him high-fiving my son, but that's okay, because it was very special. He was very excited about that.
It was astounding that I would pull that one out of the hopper.
Yeah, pretty cool. Thanks.
Frozen solid, or as Wavy Gravy. I'm trying to move the language beyond cool, because so many things are cooler than others.
Right.
So I go frozen solid, icy, tundra-esque, and the epitome is glacial.
All right, I'm gonna use those, and hopefully we'll put those out. Well, we had a similar experiment in South Florida 20 years ago when a friend of mine tried to spread another word for cool being geese, but that didn't fly. Geese.
Do geese see God? If you write that down, it's called a palindrome.
Oh yeah.
It goes both ways.
All right. See.
One of my favorites.
I think that one should have caught on, but it didn't. So
glacial.
Yes, glacial. All right. So that was Woodstock '94. How about '99?
'99, I think got a very bad rap. First of all, there was all this heavy conversation about $4 water.
Right.
Well, yeah, if you wanted the French water, but How about the water that came out of the tap for free? That never came up.
Really?
And I was already back at my hotel when the semi burst ablaze.
Oh, that's right.
I had said farewell to my friends with Indigenous, which were going to do a Jimi Hendrix tribute. I was exhausted, and I made my excuses and turned on the TV, and there it was. And this is what happened. Fred Durst of Limp Bizkit,
right.
who should be in his rant, suggested to the audience to destroy stuff. Now, these little Buddhists were planning a sunset ceremony, and they had all these candles. And the Limp Bizkitoids grabbed the candles and torched the semi.
Oh,
now,
man.
This was an event of which was recorded there were 500 people involved, of which there were 6 arrests. Excuse me. There were hundreds of thousands of people. 6 arrests is kind of minuscule, except that the media got skinheads jumping over flames, and they just ran it again and again
right.
and again, and they were saying peace and love was dead in the 90s. Well, there was some really great stuff going on at that particular Woodstock, and Fish does stuff on airfields all the time because
sure.
it's a nice flat surface to boogie on.
Sure.
And I just think it got a bad rap. It was the one for that moment, and there were a lot of good things that occurred. And the one before, Carlos evoked Jimi Hendrix, and all the clouds immediately turned pink. And Aaron Neville singing Amazing Grace. This woman had a baby. It was crowning as Aaron was, having those angels slide down his larynx.
Wow.
There were good things in all Woodstocks, and they're all different.
Yeah.
You should never try and make something the same.
That's right.
You can't do that. You can never do that. You can only do what was for that moment for those kids.
That's right.
And that was their Woodstock, and they were done a terrible disservice, I think, by the mainstream media.
But who hasn't been done a terrible disservice by the mainstream media?
Woodstock won.
Yeah. Well,
Woodstock won, and I'll tell you some things about that. Is that it never would have risen to the wonder and myth that it became if it was not for that rain that caused the mud, that caused the governor of New York to declare it a disaster area. That caused the whole world to watch.
Right.
And we knew the whole world was watching us, and we lifted ourselves up by our collective bootstraps, and were amazing together.
Beautiful.
I, my own self, was able to tap into that energy, and I could go for days without sleep. I could do wonderful, amazing things, but the minute I thought it was me, Mr. Cool, I'd fall on my butt in the mud. There was something going on there of monumental, mystical proportions that I pray that any other moment that I'll feel that again, that spirit. Every now and then I'm touched by it, and that's why I remain in this movie. I'm 73 years old and still gravy after all these years. Now, we didn't know we were going to Woodstock. We being the Hog Farm Commune, we were living in a caravan of 8 buses driving across America, putting on free shows, anti-war, pro-civil rights, showing the audience that they were the star of the shows. They would set up these geodesic domes. We'd have 500 people making a painting together and all that kind of stuff. And we had got to New York and got busted in this little town of Pennsylvania for a quarter gram of marijuana ashes. The police dove on us. We were parked at a little farmhouse, and they came charging in and they couldn't find anything. There's a blizzard. In the dead of night, they found a pipe that some hitchhiker left in a bus, and they scraped it and found ashes and took away the registered owner of the bus and the guy who, when they said, "What's that?" he sneezed, and they got him for destroying evidence. And so they were given 6 years in the Dallas, Pennsylvania State Penitentiary. And due to that, I wrote a book, and we were able to pay lawyers. We were also doing jobs in New York. We were the security for the Electric Circus. We did carpentry. We did babysit, anything to make a buck to pay these lawyers to get our fellow communards out of the slammer, which we eventually did. Now, we were at this huge loft on Spring Street with the Pegasus that was the first female black and white candidate for president. She was out at this little farm in Pennsylvania where we were parked with the buses. Mm-hmm. And we had this enormous loft in New York that this woman had turned over to us, and we're sitting around the kitchen table when this guy comes in looking like Allen Ginsberg on a Dick Gregory diet. He says, how would you guys like to do this music festival in New York State? And we said, well, at that time, we're going to be at the summer solstice in New Mexico. And he says, that's all right. We'll fly you in an Astrojet. And we just thought he was one toke over the line and paid him no heed. Cut to the summer solstice up above Aspen Meadow on the Suzuki Indian Reservation, and the same guy shows up with one of these styly aluminum briefcases, pops it open, and there is the linear overlay that indeed we have our own American Airlines Astrojet for 85 of us and 15 Indians. Well, we took about 20 hog farmers, and we got the best of all the New Mexico communes and piled them in with the 15 Indians and took off. Well, we would arrange to do fire trails and a free kitchen, but when we got to Kennedy, there was all the world press, cameras, lights blazing, and this reporter says, "Oh, you guys are the hog farm, you're the security." I said, "My God, they made us the cops." I said, well, do you feel secure? And the guy says, "Yeah." I said, "Well, see, it's working already." He said, "Come on, what are you going to use for crowd control?" And I said, "Cream pies and seltzer bottles." And they all wrote it down. And I thought, the power of manipulating the media. Mm-hmm. They put us in these fancy buses and drove us out to White Lake, Bethel, 70 miles from Woodstock. They wouldn't allow Woodstock to happen in Woodstock, but Max Gasger said yes. There's a wonderful children's book of that title. And there we were, setting up a small geodesic dome and feeding trays. My wife and Peter White Rabbit and Lisa Law went into New York and scoured all this kitchen equipment. We were able to feed 10,000 people a meal. Minuscule compared to the amount of people that were there. Oh, I remember when we first arrived. The promoters are saying, "Well, how many armbands do you need for security?" And Ken Babs was there with the Good Bus Further and the Merry Pranksters, and he says, well, how many people are you expecting? He says, well, there could be a couple 100,000, and Babs says, that'll be a sufficient amount of armbands. And they just turned white, and we said, no, relax, let's 300. But we made a stamp with a potato, and we're turning out armbands right, left, and sideways. And whenever we go out in the crowd, we'd have 10 or 20 of them in our pocket. And if we see anybody act responsible, we'd give them a stash of armbands and deputize them and tell them if they saw somebody act responsible, they should deputize them. So by the time Woodstock was over, a lot of people were wearing those armbands. They were red with a little white pig with wings. That's Pegasus. And that was the armband for security. Tom Law and I were the police chiefs, and the password was "I forgot." Well, we were strolling in the meadow there, and they hadn't gotten the fences up, and suddenly this guy comes up and says, "Well, they got the fences up any minute now. They're going to be ready to take tickets. Do you want to clear the infield?" And we looked out, and there were about 30,000 people sitting there. And we said, in one voice, "Do you want a good movie or a bad movie?" We had heard that they had sold the movie rights to Warner Brothers for 6 husky figures. So, to their good credit, they got back to us in about 10 minutes, and they said, "You're right, we're going to make it a free festival."
Don't clear the field.
How I got to talk on the microphone is due to E.H. Beresford Monk, who is Chip Monk.
Yes.
Chip was the road manager of the Rolling Stones, and he invented concert lighting at a club called the Village Gate in New York City.
Chip says hi, by the way.
What?
Chip said to tell you hello, by the way.
Yes, he's in Queensland, Australia.
Right, yes.
I saw him, they brought him into the Queen Mary 2 for a lighting convention, and we hooked up.
Nice.
He used to set my lights for any little performance I did when I was doing stand-up. And then, of course, I opened for Monk and for Coleman Hawkins at the Village Gate.
Nice.
So Chip knew I could get on a microphone. I knew my way around a microphone, and I could say hospital, and people wouldn't go off and break their leg. But they knew it was a safe place. They could go and get healed.
Right.
But I only made life support announcements. I did not introduce any bands. I told people where the water was, and that the acid was not poison.
Right.
And, I guess my great announcement, which was picked by Entertainment Weekly as one of the top stage announcements of the 20th century. Here we go. Good morning. What we have in mind is breakfast in bed for 400,000, which is when we introduced hippies to granola. They had never seen it before, and we brought it to them in Dixie cups.
Yes.
The hog farmers did. And they look at it and say, "What is this, gravel?" But they ate it and enjoyed it and told their friends about it. And I think the granola manufacturers of the world owe us an enormous debt.
They rejoiced. There was much rejoicing amongst the granola.
Exactly. And let's see, another announcement. Let's see, we're feeding each other. We must be in heaven, man. I said there is a little bit of heaven in every disaster area. Now, I feel that is a great truth, and is true to this day.
Sure.
Like in Mississippi, people are filling sandbags. There is no rich, no poor, no black or white. There's just people getting together for the common good, which is what we did, except we had a better soundtrack.
Well, now that you mention that, I feel personally that we are seeing a lot more of that spirit in recent years. I don't know if I'm right or if I'm wrong, if I just had not seen it all along, but it seems like there's more people out there helping each other on different levels. I know in my community here, if a musician gets sick, another musician says, "Let's throw a thing and raise some money for them." And it happens all the time.
Absolutely.
And we get out and we help each other, I
concur. I raise money for an organization called SEVA, which is a Sanskrit word meaning service to humankind. And we mostly work in curable and preventable blindness in third world countries, and have helped to procure eyesight for some 2 million people over the last 30 years. The Grateful Dead kind of being our house band, along with Bonnie Raitt, Jackson Brown, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. I could go on and on. The list is enormous.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you about SEVA because I'd been familiar with it and have supported SEVA over the years, but for some reason I had missed that you were on the board of directors. And are you still to this day?
Absolutely, and I'm working on a Valentine's Day show. I got Steve Earle and his wife involved. It's Sweethearts for Seva.
Nice.
I'm fishing for Derek Trucks and Susan Tedeschi. They're down your way. I got to call in to Derek tomorrow. You
ought to bring Sarah Lee and Johnny on out to that.
That's a good idea.
See there? That would be very nice. All righty. Let's see. What else do we got? At the Woodstock 1969, I know that you had your hand in a lot of things, helping and helping feed people and stage announcements and such. But when it comes to the music, tell me about a couple of your favorite performances, if you had the opportunity to actually enjoy some performing.
I didn't get to see very much.
Nah.
I got to do a little bit of Joan Baez actually at our hog farm area. She came and waited in line, and nobody recognized her because she just had her hair cut short, and it was a little bit of a drizzle. And she didn't say, "Ooh, I have to push my way up to the front of the line because I'm Joan Baez."
Right.
She just quietly waited in line till it was her turn.
Wonderful.
And performed on our little stage up by the free kitchen, which was, I thought, extraordinary.
That would definitely be a highlight.
Another extraordinary thing was John Sebastian,
yes,
Rick Denko, and Bobby Newirth came over and serenaded the people having problems with their psychotropics in our freak-out tent.
Wow.
At the Big Pink Hospital. And I thought that was extraordinary.
Nice. Well, that's certainly some memorable.
And I caught Jimmy.
Jimmy, there you go.
Jimmy.
See, I forgot to ask Chip about Jimmy.
Of course, because I was. That's where we made the breakfast in bed for 400,000. But Jimmy, hey, I got to tell you this.
Yes.
At my Camp Win a Rainbow,
right.
On the last day of each session, we wake the kids up to the Star Spangled Banner with Jimmy, and they run out of their teepees and have a pillow fight. No headshots, and no tears, and Jimmy, I'm sure somewhere is smiling at that.
I'm sure. The Camp Win a Rainbow is from ages which?
7 to 14.
Right on.
And you can look that up by going campwinarainbow.org
Please.
or Seva, seva.org.
Good.
Or wavygravy.net.
Nice. Yeah, they're all wonderful sites. I encourage people to check them out.
Thanks, Bob.
Well, Wavy, I will tell you what. It's been very exciting chatting with you.
Likewise.
It's actually it's been glacial, as a matter of fact.
Yes, and tundra-esque. And I'll speak to you in the future, and these kids give me nostalgia for the future.
Right on. I certainly hope we do get a chance to speak in the future, and I want to wish you a happy 40th Woodstock anniversary to you, Wavy Gravy. Thank you, sir.
These are the good old days.
They are.
Okay, my friend.
All right, brother. Thank you very much.
So if you want to make it back to your campsites, we'll try and get the food to you. Or if you're staying here, we'll try and get the food to you. Now, there's a guy up there, some hamburger guy, that had his stand burned down last night. But he's still got a little stuff left. And for you people that still believe that, capitalism isn't that weird, you might help him out and buy a couple of hamburgers.
WFIT in
Melbourne, Florida.
Oh, you're right by Arlo.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I met you right up the street here a couple years ago, back in, I think, 93, when you were at his concert at the BCC campus. The Indian River Festival.
I did a thing with the Highwaymen.
Yeah?
Is that the one?
I don't think so. Oh, the Outlaws you're talking about?
The Outlaws,
Yeah, the Outlaws in Arlo. Yeah.
And the Arlettes.
Yes. Yeah, we bumped into each other a little bit backstage for a few minutes. Yeah. And yeah, Arlo's still down here from time to time. I'm hoping to. I've had a couple interviews with him. I'm hoping that he can free up a little time to chat with me on this event too. But We'll see.
After us like crazy because it's 40 years.
Yeah. Well,
have you seen the new beefed up film?
I have not yet. No.
It's so beautiful. I saw it at the Academy of Motion Picture Science, both in L.A.
Nice.
and New York.
Nice.
That was just basically the film, but they'd done wonders with the sound that was already good and snapped up the color considerably.
Wow.
I haven't seen it with the added acts. Those acts were excluded because either contracts prohibiting or they weren't that good.
Sure.
They've got everything in now in a director's cut or something like that. I
Yeah.
understand. I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So.
And I've just done like my 8th film festival for the WAVY Gravy movie called St. Misbehavin'. It's a feature-length documentary produced by D.A. Pennybaker that did Monterey Pop and Don't Look Back.
Sure. And amongst many others, yes. And I was
Most recently The War Room.
Yeah, I wanted to. Yes, I wanted to touch on that with you because I'm very interested in the Saint Misbehaving.
Yep, that's it.
All right, should we do the little clip first and then we'll go into the deal?
Got it. Let's do it.
All righty. Anytime you're ready.
Okay, here comes Mess Call.